Ever wonder why humans love to fight? I mean, why is it that punching someone in the face is a thing? The why of MMA is kind of like the why of eating pizza. It just makes sense. Deep down, we all have this primal, caveman level urge to throw down and see who's tougher. Forget dinner parties. Let's just get in a cage and see who can kick whose ass the hardest, right? And before we even get to UFC or any of the modern stuff, let's time travel, baby. Back to 3000 BC. Yeah, we're talking Sumerians, those ancient people who probably invented beer and decided that throwing punches in the mud was a solid way to pass the time. Now, jump ahead a few thousand years. The ancient Greeks were like, what if we just let people go nuts in an arena with no rules? Enter Pancration, the original no-holds-barred all-out brawl. The only rule, no biting and no eye gouging. And that's it. Imagine fighting in front of thousands of people and the most terrifying thing is not using your teeth. If that was me, I'd probably still manage to screw up the rules and end up with an eye gouge or two. But we had some epic moments back then. Like this one guy, Erikion of Fagelia, wins a fight after dying. That's right, he chokes his opponent unconscious, both dudes collapse, and the one who's dead is declared the winner because his opponent tapped out first. Imagine that in today's UFC. You get Joe Rogan screaming, he's dead, but he's still the champion. If that doesn't sum up how savage humans were, I don't know what does. And then there were gladiators. These guys were the original celebrities. They were basically the UFC superstars of their day, except instead of Instagram followers, they had swords and shields. And sometimes you didn't even have to schedule a fight. If you wanted a real spectacle, you just throw someone in the Coliseum to fight to the death. Survival of the fittest, but more with public execution vibes. So yeah, pretty much like today's UFC, but with way fewer rules. Now let's skip ahead to when people actually figured things out a bit. The Japanese were like, okay, we're gonna make this whole fight thing cooler. How about throwing people, and thus judo was born. Just toss a dude like a bag of flour and bam, instant street cred. But they didn't stop there. They were like, let's add karate. Yeah, let's make it look so precise you can knock someone out with a single punch or kick. Now we're talking. Meanwhile, Brazil's like, hold on. You guys are all just punching people? We've got a way better idea. Let's choke people out. And thus, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu enters the chat. Why bother with punches when you can wrap a guy up in a way that makes them feel like they've been tied into a human pretzel? But wait, it gets better. Enter Muay Thai. This is where things go from normal fighting to why is this legal? Because it's literally the art of 8 limbs. So elbows, knees, fists, and feet are flying everywhere like it's a weird human blender, and you're just praying you don't end up on the receiving end of a knee to the face. Honestly, one knee from a Muay Thai fighter and you're probably on your way to a hospital. And if you thought that was extreme, welcome to Layway from Burma, where fighters headbutt each other. Yeah, I'm not kidding. You headbutt your opponent. We're going full savage mode now. And let's not forget the Vikings. Their form of wrestling was called Glima. Imagine trying to throw someone into a freezing cold pile of mud and dirt. It's like Survivor, but with more neck-breaking and less tropical vacation. Fast forward a few centuries, and martial arts starts crossbreeding like some weird science experiment. Everyone's borrowing moves, stealing ideas basically. It's a giant fight culture buffet. Toss in a little striking, wrestling, and BJJ, and bam, you've got MMA. It's like combining all of your favorite fighting styles into one big mess of chaos. Here's where it gets really interesting. The 90s roll around, and the Gracie family, being the geniuses that they are, show up to UFC and go, hey, let's throw a tiny Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy into the ring with everyone. We'll see who survives. Cue Royce Gracie, who looks like your uncle at Thanksgiving, getting in the cage and wrecking dudes who are way bigger and scarier than him. Royce wasn't even the most impressive looking dude, but he's the one out here choking guys out like it's a Sunday stroll. People's minds were blown. And then there's UFC's early days. Utter chaos. The sport was a test lab for martial arts. What's the best style? Is it BBJ, striking, wrestling? Let's just have them all fight and see what happens. And when Gracie choked out guys who were twice his size, it was clear. Size doesn't matter. It's all about that ground game, baby. The UFC was the MMA equivalent of throwing spaghetti at a wall to see what sticks. But then, this genius politician named John McCain, you know, the guy who thought fighting was human cockfighting, decides MMA should be banned. Thanks, John. We almost lost the best thing since sliced bread. Imagine a world without UFC. I have to start watching like chess. Yawn. Eventually, MMA starts to get legit. The UFC figures out it's not all about people beating the crap out of each other. It's about making a spectacle. Enter the Ultimate Fighter. Then Conor McGregor hits the scene, and it's like the world flips upside down. This guy gets it. He's not just fighting. He's creating drama, selling fights, and basically turning every UFC event into his personal reality show. Who needs a belt when you can have an empire? McGregor made more money in one night than most people make in a lifetime. And we all tuned in just to watch him talk trash. By 2021, UFC is a billion-dollar monster. Fighters are celebrities, and UFC isn't just about throwing punches. It's about selling the whole damn thing. Fighters like Khabib, Adesanya, and Nunes are making the kind of money we used to dream about as kids, and UFC's global empire keeps growing. But let's talk about Brock Lesnar for a second, the guy from WWE. He rolls into UFC and wins the heavyweight championship in his fourth fight. If that doesn't scream WWE to UFC pipeline, I don't know what does. Sure, he didn't have the MMA pedigree, but the dude looked like he could snap a tree in half with his bare hands. No one wanted to mess with him. Then there's the crazy evolution of the fighters themselves. Everyone's learning everything. Boxers are learning BJJ. Wrestlers are throwing elbows. Strikers are figuring out leg locks. It's like the world's most intense, brutal jigsaw puzzle. Fighters who can do it all, the ones who can switch from striking to grappling in a second, are the ones who rise to the top. Just ask Israel Adesanya, the guy who moves like he's got a cheat code in the Matrix. In the future, who knows? Maybe we'll be watching UFC in virtual reality soon. Think about it. You'll be able to feel every punch, every liver shot, like you're right there in the octagon getting beat up yourself. Sounds terrifying, but also kinda cool. And don't forget about women's MMA. Ronda Rousey and Amanda Nunes basically said, "We're gonna punch just as hard, maybe harder than the dudes." Ronda went from MMA queen to a Hollywood star, and Nunes, she's a legend. The bottom line, MMA isn't just a sport anymore. It's a lifestyle. It's chaos, it's trash talk, it's sweat, blood, and ego. And if it's gonna keep getting crazier, strap in, because the wildest ride is still ahead of us.